I stood up because a pediatrician approached me and said, I'm seeing cases of abuse in my practice. Jewish women, children, we've got to do something about it. And in those days, I was naive. And as so many were in 1992, there really wasn't publicity about this anywhere. We came together, found out about the issue, and indeed, we felt that we had to do something. We wanted to do something to strengthen our community and deal with an issue that was not at all being addressed. And we said the first thing we had to do was take the silence out of domestic violence. And that's exactly what we did.
Our first instinct was to give women an opportunity to express themselves, to call and try to get help. And so we put together what became the hotline. We had to figure out how to train people, how to get volunteers, and what information to give them so that they could help others. It was a tremendous job. The formation of the organization took years. And to sit in the room, the first rabbinical conference with Rav Pam, and the message was clear: if you don't see the problem in your community, then there's something wrong with your eyes. I still hear Rav Pam's words in my head. These women who until now had no place to turn, now they have an address.
There's something about today's times that makes marriages and families face a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges. There are financial pressures, social pressures, the pressures of being on the email all day, the pressures of the internet. The most precious thing the Jewish people had was an intact family. To protect the sound of song and of Yeshua, of salvation, in the tents of Israel is very, very difficult.
Divorce is rampant. We are really in a situation where young, early divorces, something in my 25 years of practice I never saw before at this rate, and we have to stop it.
The research has been showing that when you do teach couples the basics of communication, the basics of how to build a strong marriage together, it really does improve marriages, it lessens conflict, and it ultimately results in lower divorce rates.
The Ramban, in the famous letter that he wrote to his son, the Igarus Ramban, the first injunction that he wrote to his son was about controlling anger, because that really is what underpins so many of the difficulties that arise and come out of all areas and facets of life.
On every page of Gemara, there's disagreement. However, they knew how to fight, knew how to argue. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, who were extreme opponents on some issues, they got along well.
Marriage is about conflict. Men and women inherently are going to have some stresses. That's just the nature of the institution. And it's a wonderful institution, and the research clearly shows us that people who are married do much better in life and deal with the stresses of life much better, and it becomes probably the single most important force in terms of dictating our health and our emotional well-being.
When I was in high school, having that Shalom Task Force workshop was really eye-opening. As a high school student, no one really thinks about what relationships, are supposed to be like, what a healthy relationship is, and what an unhealthy relationship is. So having this workshop was really an eye-opening experience, because it really made us realize that we should be aware of what a healthy relationship entails, the work that it entails, and what an unhealthy relationship looks like.
We have Rav Matisyahu Solomon's Haskama for a major part of our program. We have 30 yeshivas on our roster.
Guys come out of their years of learning in yeshiva knowing very well how to learn, knowing the basics of what it takes to build a Jewish home in terms of the halachic requirements, but in terms of the basic ABCs of relationships, of communication, of what to expect from a wife or from a husband. That's where Shalom Task Force fills the void.
It's very painful for me when I hear of divorces, when I hear of schools in Israel that have told me 40% of my parent body is single-parent families. It's tragic. So I feel that as a community, as a people, we really have to address these issues.
The emphasis has to be proactive and positive and constructive and building on strengths rather than fixing and curing, etc. And that's why it's so good that the task force is called Shalom Task Force, because what it's all about is shalom, and shalom is, of course, the greatest Jewish value.